Record this due to being horrible at recording the previous ones. Um, let's just share this guy. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about health, body composition, and non-compulsive practices. Like, how do we talk about all these things and then put them into practice in a way that's sustainable? So that's what the plan is. So I think one of the things to consider is like, why do we want to get healthier? Like, why are we interested in yoga or strength training or nutrition or caring about our sleep or whatever it might be? Like, what are the reasons? And for each of us, it will be, there'll be some crossover, I would imagine, for a lot of us, but then there might be some more personal reasons. So perhaps you both can answer like why. Obviously, there's some things you can read right there, but why for you are you interested in getting healthier? Like, what is the driving factor?
Um, so I just want to enjoy my life more, and life is more enjoyable if you your mood, your cognition, your movement affects your day-to-day experience. And yeah, that's basically it. And it's a lifelong gift to yourself as well. So
Yeah, I think it's a really often underlooked kind of point of like your just day-to-day life is more enjoyable if you're fit and healthy. Like if you aren't, having digestive issues and feeling stressed and tired walking down the street, just your quality of life is so much better just by taking care of yourself. Like really. And then therefore your mental health and your interactions and just life is really a lot better when we care for ourselves.
yeah.
Mm.
I think mine's similar. I want to do a lot of traveling and I want to travel into like my old age.
Yeah.
So my parents both have a lot of health issues and um, my mum particularly has like chronic back problems and stuff like that. So I've seen her struggle physically through life and how frustrating it is because mentally she's not doesn't feel old, but physically
Yeah.
she is, and that like misalignment between your mental state and your physical state. And I
Yeah.
just want to do or set myself up for, I mean, you can't help if like things go wrong with your health and stuff. You can set yourself up for success as much as possible, but like shit happens.
Yeah.
And I just want to set my body up for success as much as possible so that I can continue to, live the kind of life that I want to experience, basically. So yeah.
That's so good. I think like genetic predisposition plays a smaller role than we all realize. Like lifestyle is so influential. And then if and when you're unfortunate enough to have some sort of genetic situation that creates some physical ailment of sorts, you'll come back so much stronger from it, from the training as well. So it's like coming back to the yoga of like controlling what's within our control and letting go of what's not. But I totally
Mm.
resonate with the traveling and being able to go and be places. I think whenever I've gone on these big hikes, I'm like, it's so sad that like my mom could train and join me on one of these things, but she couldn't just up and do it. And I don't think she will. And it makes me sad. I'm like, you're not going to see so many incredible things just
Mm.
because of your lifestyle choices. And that's really sad. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. When I travel with my mom, it's like I have to go up the stairs and take the photos of the thing that she can't physically get up to
Yeah.
go and see herself. And that, she accepts it and she's very accepting of her place. And she's in her 70s, so I should, be a little bit
Yeah.
more like
Yeah.
she's old.
Yeah.
But
Give her
I
some
just
credit,
think,
but
I
yeah.
know, I know. But I just kind of think, I want to be one of those like
Mm.
really active old people, that you
Same.
see like going on
Yeah.
hikes and stuff.
Me
Like,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just have
yeah.
hike club in 40 years. And
Yeah.
we'll just gather on a mountaintop and go hiking.
With
It'll
like
be
those
great.
sticks that they use that look like they're
Hmm.
skiing, but they're not skiing, like
Yeah.
we'll get those old people sticks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the
I mean,
activewear is always on fleek. Like I just like it's a vibe.
yeah. Yeah. The old active people know what's up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So when we talk about goals, we can talk about, so when we're saying measuring things is a really valuable way to know if we're making progress. So if I don't ever measure anything and I'm trying to improve, I will improve, but I might not think that I'm improving, and then I might not see the value in the thing that I'm doing, if that makes sense. So measuring something, and that's very personal, is a really valuable way to like see your progress. So you can make goals based on health, you can make goals based on skills, and you can make appearance-based goals. So when people are like, I want to lose 5 kilos or fit into this dress or whatever it might be, that would be an appearance-based goal. A health-based goal might be like, I want my resting heart rate to be down this much, or I want to find my blood pressure to be lower, or get a blood test and have all these health markers to be improved. And then a skill based goal, we could put it in terms of like, I want to do a handstand, or I want to learn to do a pull up, or I want to run a 5K or a 10K, like just whatever, like something that is more of the outcome kind of specific. Um, Oh, wait, there's a lovely quote here we should read. Humans are wired for growth. We are either practicing, learning, and adapting, or we are stagnating. So we're always moving somewhere. I always visualize like stagnant water. I don't know if either of you know Cooper's Park. It's in Bellevue Hill. Meg, do you know that? There's this pond at the top of the hill or at the top of the park, and it is such stagnant water. And it's so gross. And I'm just like, if I don't take care of myself, that is me, that pool of dirty water. And I just look at it and I just think, I don't want to be that. I want to be the ocean. I want to be like moving. Oh, come back. I have to move you people. You're in the corner. So health-based goals. We can think about more energy and vitality, strength, mobility, resilience, supporting long-term physical and mental health. Um, and what I said before could be outcome-based or process-based. So say, for instance, you're like, I want to do 10 pull-ups. That's the outcome. And then the process-based goal is like how you would get there. And I think having a bit of each is quite valuable. A process goal, I think both of you are probably more in regard to what you're doing. Like Naomi, you're like, okay, I'm doing strength twice a week. Meg, you're trying to get twice a week strength in. And that consistency in itself is just going to result in progress. That doesn't, and you might have specific outcome goals as well that you're interested in, but I think sometimes just the process is really the most valuable piece. Um, Whereas societally, we're always like, okay, I want to do this really heavy deadlift. And you're like, okay, cool. And then what? And then what happens? So I think it's just keeps us on track a little bit better. Skill based goals, I think, are great because we're learning new movements or capacities. When we're doing things that require that like cognitive focus of like, I'm learning something new, I have to pay attention. It's not something that my brain already understands or knows. It's going to build confidence and competence. Like, this is why I'm really quite interested in the gymnastic skills because they are really complex and very specific. And so my brain has to be like, okay, we are learning. We're going to build new neural pathways. Versus if I go to do a deadlift, I've done it so many times, it's great, and I'm still present when I do it, but I'm not learning anything new, which is also nice. They're both good. So improve coordination, balance, and focus. So perhaps learn Muay Thai, learn to handstand, like whatever it is. There's a million things you can do. And the skill might be learning to deadlift, and the skill might be learning to do a squat. So it's all anything that we don't know how to do well that we're learning cognitively. And we have to do things repeatedly for us to really land in the body and fully land. As you guys both know with yoga, like you've done camel 1,000 times or whatever it is, and it feels different 1,000 times every time. It's completely different. Appearance-based goals, changing how the body looks, often influenced by comparison or external pressure, can be motivating, but fragile if they become the only focus. I don't think that there is anything inherently wrong with an appearance-based goal. I try to compare it to, I like my bedroom to look nice. I really like having nice throw pillows and a candle, and I like my nice carpet, and I like my plant. And is my life's worth and value in like the appearance of my bedroom? No. So I think that I can like how I look in the same way that I might like to, my personality is how I'm like wearing my clothes or styling my hair. we can want to look a particular way, but it's when that becomes all consuming, then it becomes debilitating. And I would say something I would just move away from entirely. So if we get obsessive, then it's like, maybe for a little bit we don't talk about appearance and we talk about something else. Because when you try something, like your focus is just so consumed by something, and you're like, I'm just going to dial that down. It doesn't work. So it's just like, okay, let's just look at something else for a little bit. So that's an idea. I think when it comes to goal setting, it's really important to consider your why. That's kind of the first thing we discussed tonight was like, why are you interested in health? And so when you are in the gym or you're at yoga and you're like, or you're about to go to the gym or about to go to yoga and you're like, I don't really feel like that tonight or today or whatever it is, you're coming back to, okay, is this thing going to be what makes or breaks me being an 80-year-old healthy person? No. But cumulatively, all of the things that we do are going to be what make us a healthy 80-year-old or a healthy whatever it might be. So coming back in those moments when you don't want to do the thing, because I'm sure you've both had fleeting motivation at times in things where you're like, I want to do things. I want to do the cooking the healthy food and going to bed early. And other times you're like, no, I don't want to do that thing. So it's trying to remember like why you're doing it. And then having that discipline, I think, is really valuable. Also, feel free to stop me anytime you're like, I would like to say something. You don't even have to say, I would like to say something. You can just say something. So yeah, when the health goals turn into compulsion. So when we have guilt around food or rest, there's a really interesting thing right now where I feel like a lot of people feel guilty for taking a rest day. And rest is like we're going to dive into that more in a few weeks, but rest is one of the most essential components of training. And if we're not getting adequate rest, and I mean sleep, days off, time off, this rest means a lot of things, and we're feeling bad about taking that time, that's when it's become like, okay, we've got an unhealthy relationship with this. I'm using exercise as a coping strategy. And it's not a bad thing, like to use that for our mental health, but it's like anything within balance. And I think if we're like go, 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 or we're doing 7 vinyasa classes and going to the gym 5 times a week and running 5 times a week, it's like, okay, so maybe what you could do is a yin class. Because if you really want that community or you just need to have the feeling, and we start to unpack that over time. But I think it's just important to notice. I don't know that that's super relevant for either of you right now, but it is something to just be aware of. And it's really common. Fear, so same thing, fear of missing workouts. There'll be people who, like, if they miss their workout, it will just derail the whole day. It will derail everything. And it's really like, that's not what we were searching for. We want consistency, we want healthy relationship. And if you're training, and say, for instance, like Naomi, last week you missed a session. Meg, last week you were away from training. Like, so be it. That's okay. One workout, 1 week is not going to be the thing that makes or break everything. And just being okay with it. And then, because if we get caught up on it, then we're like caught up on it and it becomes this unhealthy obsession. So that's something to know. Yeah, yeah.
I
Meg,
just
you're
wanted
on.
to,
Oh, yeah.
yes. So yeah, this is interesting. Like, do you ever like I understand it's super common.
Yeah,
And had like it rings true for like my youth.
yeah.
But I'm curious, like teen years, that side of youth. And I'm just sort of curious if like yeah, like how common is it? Yeah, like it's not a thing for me. Body has seasons and stuff like that. So I'm like, what else? But
Mm.
yeah, like sort of how do you manage it when it comes up, just from your perspective? I'm just sort of curious, like, yeah.
I witness it a lot in the kind of yoga Pilates community, and a lot of the community that would be focused more on, say, like hit training. So, say berries or something like that. There's such a cult type of behavior that is very much like the businesses themselves will promote it in a way of like, okay, you've got to do like 30 classes in 30 days or whatever it is. And, one side of it is like, yes, you're just building discipline, you're building consistency, you're going to be fine. Like, it's okay to like do a little bit too much. Like sometimes we do a little bit too less. Like it's fine. But it's when it's like just really impacting your ability to live a full life. Like when your whole life becomes health and fitness, and it impacts your relationships, and it impacts your ability to, do other things. And for me, like how I've navigated that is just discussion. Like clients will say like, "Oh my God, like I I took a day off," and I'm like, "Great, that's fantastic. Like let's talk about what rest does." And then it's having a discussion, which we're gonna get into later, but exercise is catabolic. It's breaking down, and it's only going to, your tissues are only going to rebuild and repair through rest and recovery. So it's like we think that we're getting stronger when we train, but actually we're breaking tissue down so that it can rebuild and remold and become stronger. So it's kind of like, and I just think about it with the psychological thing. It's like sometimes things come crashing down and you're like, oh my God, ooh, life is hectic, but we can rebuild it stronger because we've taken down as opposed to like build on top of it. So yeah, Meg, that's the main thing. It's just I see it a lot, and I find myself being in these roles can sometimes go down that track as well. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's like have a reality check here. Like I missed a workout, whatever. Like get on with it. It's fine. And I think that's why it's really important to keep these discussions open because it's always circulating.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And it's, yeah.
Great. And I think that like last point here, self-worth tied to progress. It's like if like we have external goals in various things, right? Whether it's a professional goal or a financial goal or owning a home or having a six pack or whatever, whatever, whatever. When we have this expectation that we reach this milestone in life, life will be better. It is never that way. It's like, can I be content with where I am, still work towards something, but understand that like life is not going to change significantly from that one crossing. Um, like my ex, he really wants to be a world champion, and his whole life, that was his life. And it was like, what's going to happen when you're a world champion? Like, this is like 10 years of your life. And when you cross that boundary, like, what happens? And a lot of people, when they're chasing those big goals that pursue for decades or years or whatever it is, then they like lose themselves. So yeah, it's interesting. Okay. Body composition without obsession. So body composition is what your body's made of. We're going to dive into in the next slide, but it can improve through eating enough, strength training consistently, sleeping, recovering well, and stress management is one of the key things that kind of don't get talked about when people are struggling to improve their body composition or lose fat or whatever it might be. They'll be like, but I'm doing my sessions and I'm eating well and I'm sleeping, but stress is out of control. So I think stress is one of those, like nervous system regulation. Stress is key for all of this. Extreme restriction, overtraining, constant tracking. Like if we have a weekend where we eat a lot and we drink a lot and we treat our bodies like we're 17 or 18 and we forget that we need to take care of ourselves. And on Monday, you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym for 4 hours and not eat for 7 days. That is the extreme. So that is just creates this like compulsion kind of cycle. Whereas it's like, oh, on Monday, go to the gym for an hour, eat healthy. And you might take a couple of days to kind of recalibrate to neutral, but that's kind of the goal. Um, so body composition is the tissues that make up the body. So you have bones, your lean mass, which is muscle, organs, connective tissue, and you have fat mass. So the health is influenced by the quality and function of these tissues, not just your body weight. This is why like the scale it's one marker. It tells you what you weigh, but it doesn't tell you like what's inside that. So if you had like you are obviously more complex than a backpack. But if you had a backpack and you filled it with various things and it weighed 10 kilos, and you filled another backpack with various things that also weighed 10 kilos, it doesn't tell you much about what's inside. So it gives you an idea of something. And like we know, like excess weight, extreme weight is not healthy, but just being really considerate of what's going on inside. So we are going to look at all of them. So fat mass is really important. I feel like I societally, fat is just like this horrible thing that you shouldn't have. But it's like, why would we have it if it didn't have a purpose? Um, and so it is really essential with hormone production, energy storage, metabolic health, like our ability to take the food that we consume and put that into energy for all of our different processes in the body, our brain and nervous system, for our organs. And there are fat soluble vitamins that if we consume, we can't absorb, we can't utilize unless we have fat in our systems. Higher fat mass increase the risk of cardiometabolic disease, chronic inflammation, reduced insulin sensitivity, and I would imagine many other things, but we'll leave it at that for now. On the other end of the spectrum, when we have very low fat mass, it increases the risk of hormonal disruption, low bone density, loss of menstrual cycle, and that really significantly impacts our mood, our risk of injury, and our fatigue levels. So being on either extreme, end of the extreme, is not healthy. So the healthy ranges are, well, the minimum for health, where you are likely going to not have health considerations for women is between 10 to 13%. But that is still like pretty low. I think that like the health risks are going to increase significantly if you're below that 10 to 13, but it's really for women in this 20 to 30% of body fat mass that is going to be optimal. So slightly less for someone who's more athletic, and in and around that 20 to 30. Men, because their hormones are not as complex as the females, as we know, don't require as much body fat for reproduction, for all the things that we female bodies have to do. So men, they could be 2 to 5, 10 to 20. Like it's not as much of an issue. But this is why you might see men are more likely to have access to a six pack versus women. It's much harder and not necessary. Most of the women who have exposed abs are probably in and around that 10% kind of mark. They're probably pretty low. And on the risk of losing their periods, various health things. So, not all. Not you can't tell by looking what is going on for everyone. But yeah, so sometimes the aspiration of the aesthetic goal is maybe not always super healthy. So perhaps. Um, Bone density. So as we discussed, your body composition is lean mass, fat mass, and your bones. So bone density is a hot topic buzzword at the moment, and it is referring to bone strength and mineral content. It's influenced by load bearing exercise, nutrition, and hormones. So, low bone density increases the risk of osteoporosis, fractures, loss of independence later in life. Protective factors, resistance training impact adequate energy, meaning like you're consuming enough food, calcium, and vitamin D. I feel like in the 90s, it was just like the only thing you need to do for bone density is drink milk. At least in Canada, that was what it was. It was just like the dairy farmers want you to drink milk and you will have strong bones. Um, it's not that simple. Anyways, so if you can see here, normal bone, healthy bone is that bone on the left. You can see that it's strong. Whereas when we start to get osteopenia, which is the precursor to osteoporosis or severe, you can see how much more delicate the bone becomes, and it's brittle, and that bone has, yeah, Meg, go ahead.
I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of reversibility? Like, I don't have, not as far as I'm aware, I don't have this issue, but like, is there
Yeah.
lifestyle, like, yeah, is there reversibility through lifestyle, like at any
Yeah.
stage?
So we're gonna unpack it more in coming weeks, but that's really what the resistance training is about. Is this is the way. So when people are like, okay, you can go to yoga and you can load bear and you can build lean mass, it is not enough to be impactful, especially if and when we are approaching this kind of osteoporosis or osteopenia. We want to be as really, I think, aggressive in recuperating. So it's like if someone has been strength training for a long time and just wants to do yoga for a little bit, they might maintain, but it's just like, okay, say for instance, myself. The last time I had a bone scan or I did a DEXA scan, I did it 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I haven't done one yet this year. My bone density, so they was on the line of what is good. It just barely was enough, just barely. The reason, because I've obviously strength trained forever, the reason is because my diet was not adequate in terms of protein and various things when I was plant based and maybe not that considerate of what I was eating. I thought I was being really healthy. It's just like fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, like all really clean, which I don't really like that word either, but that kind of food. And I was like, oh my God, I like need to take this nutrition thing seriously. Like I I'm okay. I can still make impacts. I can have a positive impact in my bone density. But yeah, so this is what the strength training is about. So we'll unpack like what all of that really looks like. But resistance training is one of the key things, and the nutrition. Mhm. So yeah, okay, let's look at lean mass and health. So capacity, resilience, and support. So we said we've got bones, we've got fat, and this is lean mass kind of fits into everything else. And our amount of lean mass is really, really crucial for our longevity. So lean mass strength is supporting our strength and mobility. Um, you'll both have experienced it. Like when you're, I always, my personal experience is like when I have been doing a lot of strength and I'm feeling strong, um, plank feels easy in yoga. When I haven't been doing that much strength and I go to yoga and I do a plank, I'm like, oh my God, this is a plank. This is hard. And it really is my marker of like, cool, I've like been focusing on some other things right now. So I want to get back to, I want to feel like my plank feels relatively easy most of the time. That's my goal. Meg, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. You know me well. When you mentioned that, so after like I was in a hospital last week, as you know, and then I got released.
Yeah.
And I, obviously was like post antibiotic, had the injection, like sore arm and all that. But
Yeah.
I went, had to teach like the next day, after getting released, because like, commitments. So
Yeah.
and like the students were really keen. Like the week before, they were like, "Oh, we want to learn how to do handstand." Um, so I'm like, okay. And it was a very drill-based sort of flow, like, working with a lot of the drills I learned from you, Sam, and working with the wall as well. And actually, like, so I was able to cue that all, verbally with no demo, except the handstand, like the going up the wall. And what I noticed and what I surprised myself with was actually how easy it was to find air and like hold the air, that I actually was like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I could attribute that to like the strength work that we've been doing over the past few
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
So that's my marker. Yeah, it was obviously plank, but like that one was a really like, oh crap, like I can really feel it in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. It's so good. It's just nice to have like something that you're like, cool. Like maybe it's like dolphin, where you're like, no, where you're like, yeah, just dolphin feels all right. Maybe that's the marker. Who knows?
Dolphin did
So
not feel all right on Saturday. So
okay, so we're getting there. So perhaps,
one time it
perhaps,
did. Saturday was early. I was tired. It was not going to happen. But plank is
yeah,
good. Plank,
yeah.
yeah,
Plank's good.
solid.
Plank's
Yeah.
good. So maybe you will notice in a month, you'll be like, dolphin's easier, or maybe in 6 months, whatever, something like that. Um, so at around age 30, the body begins to lose lean mass at a rate of 3 to 5% per decade if we don't do anything about it, which is like quite a bit. This rate tends to accelerate after 60 and then again at age 70. So strength work is really important now because it gives before significant decline, giving a bigger muscle reserve. So the more muscle that we have now, the more that we're going to hold on to. Bone and muscle are, so this Meg, kind of what you're asking before. Bone and muscle are living tissues. They respond to how we move and nourish ourselves. What we do now influences how resilient and capable we are later. So obviously, the sooner we start doing things, the better. But there's no time that's too late. We can always make a difference. Like we can always increase and improve our quality of life. Body recomposition is the term used to describe losing fat while building muscle. So, short term tracking as a learning tool to educate ourselves on various things. So, whether that's tracking of food or tracking of, like, when it's often older women who are like, do you think I need to do strength training? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, but I don't want to. I'm like, okay, you do what you want. My suggestion would be go get a bone scan or like a body mass scan. Find out what your bone density is. You're happy with your bone density? Great. You don't need to strength train. But if you are low bone density or approaching osteopenia, you might want to get to the gym. And I was like, statistically, I would love if there would be a study of like old school yoga teachers who've only ever done yoga who are now 70. I'd love to know what their bone density is. That would be, I feel like, really interesting at actually giving us some insight because you can do a lot with your body mass, but I don't think that it is always adequate. It's also not the most efficient way to do things. And we are generally time poor. And if we're not time poor, that is wonderful. Tracking is not supportive if it creates anxiety, obsession, triggers restrictions, overrides hunger signals, feels compulsive. So, sometimes if we've been overeating or overconsuming, our I can't speak, our hunger signals could be a little bit messed up and they'll improve when we improve our eating habits. But if we're just like, some people will be like, I am so hungry, but I'm not eating until Saturday or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, cool, cool. Like your body's hungry for a reason. Like you need fuel. And there are times perhaps when fasting is appropriate or like that this is just sort of not going down the road of any particular pathway, but just a general, let's look at nutrition, let's look at all this kind of stuff together. Um, Generally speaking, healthy eating behaviors look like eating regularly, protein at most meals, including carbohydrates without fear, fats for satisfaction, and prioritizing adequacy over perfection. So we start to build trust with food, supportive practices, hunger and fullness check ins. Like if you have a tendency to overeat, eating slower and being like, oh, wow, I'm full now. Do I need to eat the rest of this? No, no, do not. And so it's just being really mindful. Eating without distraction is one of the most valuable tools because we often overeat when we are distracted. Neutral food language. Food is not good nor bad. It's not a moral thing. Um, and then reframing exercises. Like, am I moving to support my body, to control it, or to punish it? So we want to think healthy movement, energizing, strengthening, and grounding. Healthy body image is not loving your body all the time, despite it's not like you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, look at that perfection. It is instead having this relationship with your body where you're respecting your body's needs, listening to hunger, fullness, and fatigue, appreciating what the body can do, and allowing your body to change over time. I think that it's really important to like understand like we are all menstruating, so your cycle comes, you shift and you change, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I just feel bloated and awful and my clothes don't fit. And this is just, ugh, just gross. And then the next day you're like, oh, I feel great. And knowing and witnessing and observing that and being like, okay, this is just unfortunately one of the waves we are riding. And just building that thing where we start to look at ourselves and be like, cool, I am building strength. I'm getting strong. I'm not whatever this number is or body fat percentage, whatever it might be.